This is Amy. I am the Globetrotting Stitcher. I am back with you today for episode 9. I hope everybody has been doing well. We have been busier than normal. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a few minutes. But first, I wanted to start out by giving some hellos and thank yous to a couple of new Flosstube channels that have all shouted me out recently, and I thought that was really sweet and kind. And so as a result of that, I had a chance to find their channels and learn about them, and wanted to make sure that you guys knew about them too, since they're all new. So the first one is Patricia Ball. She's Stitcher Trish, and she shouted me out on her Flosstube channel recently. She and her husband are teachers, and they're filming their Flosstubes together. And they're new to Flosstube. They only have 4 videos out, but I got a chance to watch them and really enjoyed their channel and the projects that they're working on. So please go check them out. Also would like to say a big thank you to Lynn. Lynn is the Lancashire Stitcher, and she shouted me out recently as well. Lynn is from the UK, and she just has released her first video. She did a fantastic job, and she has some really beautiful pieces. So she stitches a lot of lavender and lace. She stitches mirabilias and drawn thread, among many others. And her first video is just chock full of beautiful finishes and whips. So please go check her out. And then finally, Yany at Stitching to Connect has also recently put out her first Flosstube video. Yany is from the Denver area. And I was really excited when I watched her first video to find out that her son and his wife actually live in the Seattle area, so they're not too far from us. So a big welcome to all 3 of you to the Flosstube community. It's a warm and wonderful place here. And so please, everybody, go take a look at their channels and get to know them, because they're great additions to our little community here. I wanted to next move on and make sure that
Wait, can you slide the light behind you to your left a little bit? Just reach behind you.
Yeah.
Slide, stop.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay.
Let's go.
Carry on. You didn't see any of that.
Didn't happen.
So first of all, I guess...
You had a little thing poking out of your shoulder.
Oh. Gonna want to have that looked at.
Yeah.
So we have, you'll remember a couple of videos ago, I announced my first giveaway, and we have been, as I had mentioned previously, so busy the last couple of weeks. And part of that has been, I'm going into my busiest season of the year at work. And so my days have been really long. And Gary actually was gone for a week. So we postponed filming this episode. He went down to Oregon to work on a new film project and get a bunch of footage. And so he was actually down in the area where a lot of the wildfires have happened, or near there. And he was telling me that where he was, they actually had the worst air quality in the world for at least 2 of the days that he was there. So I'm relieved that he is now home safely, and he doesn't seem to be too much the worse for wear.
Couldn't see nothing. Sorry. I bumped into stuff.
You do that at home.
All right, sorry.
Sorry. So anyway, we are really behind on announcing the giveaway winners that for the giveaway that we had announced a couple of weeks ago, courtesy of Yany Stitcher. So for those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Yany Stitcher from Mexico very graciously offered a couple of her PDF patterns that she has designed. They are absolutely beautiful. And so we had a giveaway for those. So I've done the drawing. By the time this video goes up, just because it takes a while between when we film and the editing process and are actually able to post. So by the time this goes up, we will have posted just a short clip announcing who those giveaway winners are. But in case they missed that, I also want to make sure to share in this video. So our first winner is Maria Cortez. Maria says that she misses her family who live in Mexico. And so I was so excited when the random comment generator picked her comment, and I read that, because I love the fact that these charts will have a personal tie to her family in Mexico for Maria. Our second winner is Owl and Gator Stitcher. And her comment was, she said that I lived in Belize for a few years and used to travel to Maya Rivera frequently. I loved the food, culture, people, and beauty of that part of Mexico. And again, I congratulations to both of you. I just think it's really great that both of you that are our winners for the giveaway have a tie to Mexico that's personal. And so I really hope that as you get to choose your patterns and begin stitching on them, that you enjoy that and it brings a lot of memories and special feelings to you. So huge congratulations. Thank you so much to everybody who entered. We really enjoyed reading all of your comments. So many of you shared wonderful memories of vacations with family or children who've been adopted or students that you work with. And so just some really wonderful ties to a wonderful country. And it was great to read about all of that. So for our two winners, I will be going back and responding to the comments that were the winning comments and letting you know that you won. Please make sure that you respond back to me with your email address so that I can put you in touch with Yany and then she can help you with getting you the pattern of your choice. So congratulations! All right. Moving along, I am really excited to have two FFOs back from the framers to share with you today. So the first one is our big one, and that is Rose Quaker Sampler. I'm going to try and pull this up by myself, but I might need some extra help from Mr. Gary here. It's a big beast.
Yes, you got it.
I guess I do. Thanks, honey. Isn't she beautiful? So what I will tell you is when I took her in, this is not exactly, let's see, I don't know if we can go any lower than that. Okay. This is not exactly what I had envisioned when I was thinking about what I wanted to frame her in. I knew I wanted to do like a dark sort of mahogany kind of frame, but I was thinking something a little bit more rustic. And although I normally frame with a mat, in this case, I wasn't planning to. I was thinking keep it simple. And there is a framer that who I've worked with a number of times at this particular Joann's, and she knows my love of working with the mats. And so she said, well, let's just throw a few on there and see if we like it and if it works. And then if we aren't liking the mat, we'll just go straight with a frame. And we ended up settling on this mat because we both loved how it just really pulled on the colors in the design. And then we threw in a little fillet for good measure. So I think this turned out really beautiful. I'm so pleased with it. And I'm so excited to have this on display in our home. Really, really proud of it. And yeah, it was absolutely worth every hour that I put into stitching it. So for the final time, Rose Quaker Sampler by Stickede and von der Wiehenberg, stitch on 32 count soft apricot linen by Color and Cotton. And yeah, this is going to be something that we will be treasuring for many years to come. Thank you, honey. Okay, the next FFO that is back from the framers that I have to share with you is my Winter Queen. So this one, there's been a bit of a journey to get it home and actually truly finished. I ended up getting a call from Joann's saying that it was ready to be picked up several weeks ago. And I was so excited when I got the call because I thought, oh my goodness, it's going to be ready in time for my niece's birthday after all. So I trotted up there and went to pick it up. And when they unwrapped it to show it to me, it was the mats were really beautiful, but the frame was very gold. And the frame style that I had selected for it, it had a bit of a gold undertone, but it was a silver frame. And so, they asked me if I liked it. And I said, well, the frame's a lot more gold than I recall. And she said, well, let's pull the sample off the wall that we ordered from. And so she did. And sure enough, the color of the sample was significantly different than the color of what actually came back to them for framing. And so she said, sometimes that happens. The colors fade over time or change over time. So let's just get this fixed for you. Let's pick a different frame. So we picked a different frame and, they warned me this is going to set us back another couple weeks. So, and I said, that's okay. I didn't think it was going to be ready in time as it was. So it is what it is. Well, less than 48 hours before my niece's birthday, they called and they said, hey, guess what? It's ready. And so I went up there the night before my niece's birthday to go pick it up. Got it, looked great, brought it home. And then the morning of her birthday, I pulled it out and was getting ready to wrap it for her. And I noticed a couple of some problems with it. There was some flaws. It wasn't as perfect as I had thought. There was a pin that was sticking through from the pinning process. There was a piece of thread that had gotten caught under the fabric that was also creating a lump. And then the mats were bowed because it wasn't properly structured in the back. So anyway, after some consultation with Gary and consultation with my brother, went ahead and took it to let my niece have it for her birthday, or to open it and see what she was getting, and then had to tell her, okay, you can't take it home. I'm really sorry, but there's some mistakes and we have to go get it fixed, but you can have it soon. And, I have to tell you that she...
Very sorry. I meant to do this earlier. Just do your thing. Just speak it normal. Nothing's happening here.
Nothing's happening here. Nothing to see here, folks. Anyway, so I have to say that when my niece opened the first piece of paper that was folded over the top of it, the look on her face, because I had told her this is a special present, and the look on her face when she started to open it, she hadn't even seen the stitching yet. And as soon as she opened that first piece, she knew what it was because she had seen the chart along like a year and a half ago. Did you?
No.
The look on her face, she was just awe. She was transfixed. She had this beautiful little angelic smile on her face, and it was obvious that she loved it. And so we finished unwrapping it together, and she just kept staring at it. And I said, do you like it? And she said, oh, it's so beautiful. And so it was just, her reaction was all I could have asked for and more. So without further ado, let me show you the finish on Winter Queen. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I think it's really beautiful. Especially these mats. I think they just absolutely complement this piece. One of the things that I really loved about the framing job was that normally I would have the mats placed a little bit closer to the stitching, but because this fabric was so beautiful and I really wanted to keep this sort of pink, sort of sunrise type sky, I loved that they were able to make the mats a little bit further out so that really stays and is an element of the overall finished piece. So really, really beautiful. And it was just such a joy to share this with my niece and know that she loves it. And so I can't wait to actually now get this finished and fixed piece over to her so she can begin enjoying it in her room. So that's it. Winter Queen by Shannon Christine Designs. It's stitched on 32 count Blue Fusion Jobelin by Silk Weaver. So there she is, all done. All right. Okay. In addition to those two FFOs, I have a finish to share with you, a small finish, but a finish I'm relieved to have finished. So you'll remember the last time that I filmed, I was working on my March cottage and I was telling you that it felt like I had been stitching on it forever, but I thought that I was pretty close to a finish if I had got another good bit of work on it. And I'm happy to report that the March cottage is finally finished. So before I show it to you, I am stitching this design on 28 count mushroom Lugana as I do with all of my cottages. And this is how it looks. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. And you would think that I would have thought to take this and actually pick my finishing fabrics because I've been at Joann's about 7 times in the last week, it feels like. But I didn't actually think to do that. So the next time I head up there, I'm gonna pick some finishing fabrics and get this fully finished so that it will be ready for us to enjoy next year when March rolls around. So there we go. This is stitched on, as I said, 28 count mushroom Lugana. I used all of the called for flosses. And this is the March Cottage by Country Cottage Needleworks. Okay. Let's talk about the whips that I've worked on since the last time that we filmed. So the first one is my full coverage piece, Rose Trellis In. It is by Heaven and Earth Designs, and I'm stitching it on 28 count white Lugana. I'm doing it 2/1 using a half stitch. And you'll remember the last time I worked on this, I had made some really good progress. I had started working on the roof of the turret and was stitching my way down. And I was really hoping that this time around I was going to be able to actually start working on the pink part of the inn. And I'm really happy to say that although I didn't get far into the pink part, I did get started on it. So I had envisioned making a little more progress, which you guys, those of you who have been watching me from the beginning, know that I always envision getting more progress than I actually do. But this piece, I ran into a lot of confetti with this one. It was really, really slow going, and I have a feeling it's going to be that way for quite a while to come. But despite that, I really enjoyed it. And I have to say that although it can be a little bit demotivating, particularly now that I'm in the building and all this detail is starting to emerge, it really is worth it. So you can see here, I finished this little, I don't know, this decorative element that's above the window. And this here is now a window that is coming into shape. It's the arch above the window. And I really just enjoyed seeing that come together. Those colors, the top part of the pink, the shadow, it's a lot darker than I thought it would be. And it's far closer to red than it is to pink. But one thing I have seen with a lot of full coverage is they'll have you the chart will call for colors that you just think, that can't possibly work. What is that? And then once you get everything layered in, it all just blends together and you're like, oh yeah, it's perfect. And so I'm sure that's kind of how this will come together here as well. But for me, it was just so exciting to finally get like that little chunk of this entirely new color palette into this piece. So I'm really looking forward to making some more progress on this the next time it comes up. So yeah, Rose Trellis Inn, coming along nicely. The next piece I worked on was my my sampler. So you can't, I knew I had to stitch on at least one sampler for Sampler September. And you'll remember that the last time I worked on this, my sampler, by the way, is Summer by Blackbird Designs. It's part of the Loose Feathers series. And you'll remember that the last time I worked on this, I had just barely gotten a new start on it. I had stitched the first couple of letters and the first part of the border. And so I'm happy to say that although I didn't get quite as far as I had hoped, I made pretty decent progress on this design. So here is where we are now. What I will tell you is, there we go, a little specialty fiber from Bear or Sophie. What I will tell you on this particular design is what you are seeing on camera is probably not as much as I've actually accomplished. So I'm stitching this on a 35 count Irish cream linen, which is the called for, it's the called for color, but not the called for count. And then I'm using all of the called for flosses. It's mostly Gentle Arts, and then it's got a few classic colorworks in there. And I think this is a good example of the variability over time of over-dyed and hand-dyed fibers and textiles, because although I'm loving the way that these colors are showing up on this fabric, a couple of the colors, and let me see if I can adjust how I'm holding this to show you, a couple of the colors really, really blend in. You can see them okay in person if you're right up close to it, but right here, there's a big like cream colored flower and it's just blending right into the fabric. You probably can't see it on camera. And then there's a whole border of diamonds that go down the side here. I almost got those fully finished with stitching. There's a few more to do. And those are also blending right in with the fabric. So I don't know how much of the progress is showing up, but it is really pretty in person. I really have enjoyed working on this. It's been a fun project so far, and I'm looking forward to getting back to it. So that's where we are on Summer by Blackbird Designs, part of the Loose Feathers series, and this is the first part of that seasons sampler that they did. Okay, the final whip that I worked on is actually a new start. Yes, a new start. And so because I got to my March cottage finished, I was able to finally start the April cottage, which you guys know I've been wanting to get to for a while because I love the colors. So I will hold up what it will look like when it's finished. And this I am, as I stitch with all my cottages, doing the called for colors and stitching it on the 28 count mushroom Lugana. And oops, getting a little aggressive here. Just throwing patterns around.
There you
Oh. You all saw that. So this is what I've accomplished so far. I have almost finished stitching the top border, just a little left to go. I've got a couple of clouds that are emerging, and then I've started stitching the word April. We shall see. I have a feeling that this one may stitch up a little bit more quickly than the March cottage did. We'll see. No promises, because every time I say that, it doesn't happen. But however long it takes, we will enjoy it. So I'm happy to have this started, and we'll see. We'll see how we go over the next couple of weeks on it. All right, that's it for all of my whips. So I wanted to take a few minutes to respond to questions and comments that have come in the last couple of videos. So the first one is from Colleen Isaac. And Colleen said, this is a personal question. Colleen, do you have a big stash? It seems like you probably don't. So those of you who might have seen my very first video may remember that that's a great question, and it's a totally fair question. And the answer is no, I do not. So it's partially yes and partially no. I have what I would consider to be a moderate sized stash of charts, meaning more than 100 and less than 150. And to those of you that are new to the Flosstube community, that might sound like a lot, but that is not much at all compared to a lot of people out there. So I don't feel too bad. And I feel pretty confident that most everything that's in my stash of charts, I will actually be able to finish in my lifetime. And they are all things that I love enough that I know I'll stitch them. When it comes to fibers, flosses and fabrics, I do not have a large stash. I'm not part of any floss or fabric of the month clubs because just for me personally, I feel anxious if I have a lot of pieces of fabric that I don't have an explicit purpose for. And so I don't have a collection of those. And this year that's kind of come back to bite me a little bit because it's just taking a lot longer when you order fabrics and flosses. Many flosses are just not coming back into stock very quickly because there are shortages, and our dyers are working as quickly as they can, but there's only so much that they can do with what's happening around the world right now. So I've had some projects I've had to put off starting, and I've had to scramble a bit to change my plans up. And so I've kind of wished that I had more of a stash to pull from. But what I am doing is I'm thinking ahead more and more about what projects I want to start over the next 4 to 6 months and even a year, and working on kitting those things up so that I'm a little bit more, I have not so much like free and unaccounted for stash, but at least I have enough things kitted up that I'm not going to run out of projects to work on and then find that I don't have anything to do. That's really not a serious, that's unlikely to happen. So, but that's a great question, Colleen. Thank you. The next question is from Cleo Hasbrook. And she said, I don't understand the why and how you wash a cross stitch. I've never done that, and until recently didn't even know you washed cross stitch projects. Another really great question. So the first thing I want to say, Cleo, is I think that when it comes to washing your cross stitch projects, it's a very personal decision, and there are many, many people out there who never have and never will wash their pieces. What I will say is individuals who stitch on a lot of over-dyed fabrics or use the hand-dyed flosses I would definitely not recommend washing. Those of you who've watched my last couple of videos know that has come back to bite me, even when it was supposed to be Color fast. Thank you. It's a good thing there's somebody here to remind me of my words. So for folks that stitch on those, I definitely don't recommend washing because they're liable to run or bleed and ruin your piece. So having said that, if you are working on a truly color fast piece of fabric, if you're working with DMC floss and that's also color fast, then it's really just a personal decision about whether you want to to wash that piece or not. I think if you are a person who tends to stitch really small projects or even medium-sized projects, it's probably not really necessary. But if you stitch in hand, or if you stitch really large projects that take a while, I personally am a big fan of washing, and I've always washed my projects because just the oils from your hands and dust and things around the house, you never know what's going to get onto your fabric. Although it has never happened to me, I have seen videos by other floss tubers who have showed pieces that were stitched 15, 20 years ago and then framed, and they didn't wash the piece. And over time, discoloration happens in different parts of the design because of the oil in their hands. It starts to react with the air over time, and it just discolors. And so to me, as long as my fibers are color fast, I will almost always default to washing them. One of the other benefits of washing and then ironing is that it tends to fluff up your floss again and make it a little bit fuller. And so if you are a coverage nut like me, that does give you a little bit better coverage that you can work with. And yeah, so totally optional, entirely up to you. But those are some of the reasons why somebody might choose to wash a piece. So the next question came from Peggy Shock, and Peggy said, I wonder if you could talk about your lacing. Do you do your own lacing before you take a piece to the framer? That's an excellent question. So I actually don't lace anymore. I have laced in the past, and actually the Peace Angel that I showed a couple of episodes ago that I stitched for my aunt, that is a laced piece, and I did that myself. But I have, in more recent years, switched to, for my small pieces, I will usually mount it on an acid-free sticky board. And then on my larger pieces, if I'm going to frame it myself, I pin. I feel like I have a little bit more control over a couple of things with pinning. One of those is I feel like I'm able to get it a little bit more even without pulling too tight. One of the dangers of lacing is that you can actually pull too tight. And you can have an unevenness in how the fabric is pulled, but it can also, I think, bow your foam core in places. So yeah, I don't, if I'm taking a piece to the framer, so far, if I'm taking a piece to the framer, I always just let them pin or lace. But I have considered, given that I am comfortable with excuse us, given that I'm comfortable with pinning for myself, I have considered maybe doing some of my own pinning just to save a little bit of money on the framing process.
I was actually trying to turn sounds off.
That's not what you did.
I got a sound that said you turned everything off.
Well, we all feel peace of mind now.
Hooray!
Well done. Oh, goodness.
Silence you want, you say? I'm sorry. Good.
All right, carrying on. On the subject of lacing and pinning and such. Oh, I wanted to say there are some really great tutorials out there if it's something you're interested in trying. And there is a floss tuber, and I could not find her videos when I went to check before filming today. So I think she may have recently taken them down, which is a real tragedy because there was a floss tuber and her name is just escaping me now. But her videos were really helpful to me when I decided to start trying to pin for myself rather than lacing. She was a professional framer, and she hasn't made a new floss tube video in probably 3 or 4 years now. But she did a couple of tutorials on framing, and she showed start to finish the whole process, mats, pinning, assembly, the whole 9 yards, very thorough, so many great tips. And I wish those videos were still available because they were excellent. But I know there's a lot of other great videos out there on how to properly pin your projects. And so you can definitely look those up and get good advice on how to do that. Okay, next question came from Lizzie Wholehouse. And Lizzie said, how do you keep track of your rotation? Is it a diary, spreadsheet, other method? Because I can never keep focused on the same few pieces. I'd also like to know how you stitch on the diagonal, and would you consider doing a tutorial video on this or just explaining how you park with this method? So a couple of different things to respond to here. The first thing is how I keep track of my rotation. So I think first of all, I keep my rotation fairly simple, and that helps me keep track of it. As I have talked about quite a while ago, my rotation, I have 4 slots plus my travel stitching. And those 4 slots are dedicated to specific themes of stitching. So there's a sampler spot, a full coverage, a fancy lady, and then a seasonal or gift stitching slot. Now, many of you have heard me talking recently about I'm considering adding a 5th spot that would be a wild card. And that would be so I can stitch all the things that don't necessarily fit cleanly into one of those categories. But right now I just have the 4. And so when I finish a piece in one of those categories, I replace it with something of the same category. So if I finish the sampler, I start a new sampler. So that helps me keep track because I'm only working on one kind of thing at a time. The other thing that I do, I tend to rely on electronic tools more than handwritten tools. So in my calendar where I keep track of my work and my life and all of my meetings, I have a recurring appointment for every single one of my rotations. And I work a full 7 days on each piece before I rotate to the next. And so it's just a banner across the top of that week reminding me, this is the one you're working on this week. And so if I ever forget, it's always there in my calendar. This is what's coming up. The other thing that I do to track my progress on each of those, Brian at Blitz Stitch. If you're not watching Brian, you really should. He stitches some beautiful pieces and he has been making floss tubes for several years now. He's just delightful. Brian created a spreadsheet and very graciously shared it a couple of years ago, and I absolutely love working with it. It allows you to keep track of all of your projects, all of your finishes, and it will calculate the number of days you've stitched. It's got a lot of capabilities or functions that are built in that I don't even use, but you can track the number of hours you've stitched on something if you want, the number of stitches. And if you actually count your stitches and enter them on a daily basis, his spreadsheet will tell you based on the rate of your stitching, it will give you a prediction, an updated prediction every day of when you will finish that piece if you keep stitching on it at the same pace that you're stitching. It's fantastic. So that's what I use to keep track of my progress on my stitching. And I really enjoy working with it. And he's shared it for free on his Flosstube. And so go check that out. So that's how I keep track. I know a lot of other floss tubers use other tools. And if you're more of a tracking with like paper kind of person, Jen Lee she's at Quirks and Stitches on Instagram. Jen is the person who originated the 24 hours of cross stitch. And she created a fantastic tool that a lot of folks use. You can buy them for a very reasonable price. And it's just a series of PDFs with all kinds of tools for tracking your progress and your projects and planning things out. And so that would be another great way that you can track your rotation if you want to get started with one. The other questions from Lizzie were about stitching on the diagonal and whether I would do a tutorial. So I will say the short answer to that is yes, we are planning to do a tutorial on how I stitch on the diagonal and park. It's just been this year and the last couple of months in particular have been so busy that we're finding it hard just to keep up with keeping up on the regular video updates for Flosstube. So I'm hoping that once I kind of get past my busy season, that I'll have a little bit more time and that we can actually plan and sit down and do a tutorial on that and several other things that I'd love to share with everybody. So it is coming. I don't want to promise a when because I don't know. But what I will say is if you look back, Lizzie, into episode 5, that was called Technical Difficulties. During the first half of that video, I did talk really briefly a little bit about my parking technique as well as stitching on the diagonal. It's not perfect, but hopefully it would give you at least a rough idea of how I go about doing that. So, and I will say Brian Blitz Stitch, as well as Karen the Needlebug and Stitchin' Mommy, their approach to parking and stitching in the diagonal is slightly different than mine. But you might find they have got some tutorials that they've done that are really helpful. And then if you want to go for a real blast from the past, Carolyn Mazzio, she didn't stitch on the diagonal, but she did use the parking method, and her parking method is quite similar to mine. I think she's come back to cross stitch in the last few months, which is so delightful to see her popping up on my Instagram. And I really hope she starts making videos again because she was just brilliant. But she did a tutorial video a number of years ago on stitching and parking. And so really, really, really helpful video. So go check that out. And then the final question is from Karen Pellion. And she asked if I would be willing to share the conversion of my flowers from Sabrina. I would be delighted to. So I went and I looked that back up, and there are six different colors in those flowers. And so we will put this up on the screen as well as down in the description box. But from lightest to darkest, the red colors that I used are 321. Then I did a blend of 321 and 304. Then just 304. Then 815. Then 814. And then the final color is actually the called for color for the dark shade in those flowers, and that's 938. And that worked really well both in the original and with my conversion, so I just left it. So those are the colors that I used for my red flowers in Sabrina. Okay, I think it's time for us to wrap it up. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to be working on between now and the next time we film. So I am really excited. I am going to get back to working on Celtic Autumn. As I have said several times, things are so busy right now at work. And so I'm hoping to get some real time in on that, but no promises. But I would really love to at least finish another 1 to 2 diagonals on that skirt and see some good progress on that. After I finish my rotation on Celtic Autumn, I am going to be getting a new start, which I'm so excited about. So I have been talking the last couple of videos about wanting to get started on Flowers Always by Hello from Liz Matthews, because this is a design that I want to stitch as a gift for somebody I love very much. And I'll be giving this to them before the end of the year.
Me?
I love you very much, but this is not really your style. This is not for you.
I could find a use for it.
I'm sure you could.
Sorry. You were rolling there.
I was rolling and
Yeah.
you totally interrupted the stream.
Sorry.
It's okay. So just a bit. So originally I had planned on stitching this design on a pale blue fabric. And I actually ordered that way back at the beginning of June, and I don't have that fabric yet. Thank you, COVID. So I'm not sure when that fabric will arrive, but I actually made a decision. I'm changing what I'm going to stitch this on. Hopefully the change I made will work. So I'm going to be stitching it on this really beautiful, it's a 32 count Belfast linen in frosted pumpkin. And this is by Silk Weaver. And as you know, I'm a big fan of their fabrics. And so it's got I don't know how well this color will come through. It's got a pumpkin-y tone to it, but it's also, it's a nice corally orange. And so it could go fall, but I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be really lovely for this design. So I'm going to be starting this in the next week or so, and really looking forward to working on that. And then finally, I will continue to work on the April cottage. We'll see how much progress I can make on that. And that's pretty much it. So with all of that having been said, we hope that you guys are all staying well, staying safe, continuing to wear your masks.
Stay out of the fire.
Stay out of the fire. Yeah, don't be like,
Him.
Don't be like him. Don't drive into the fire and smoke. Just drive out of the fire and smoke. Those of you who are in the US, if you haven't done so already, please register to vote. Make your voice count. It matters.
We don't care who you vote for, just vote.
Well, we do, but we're not going to tell you who we think you should vote for.
It's
none of our business. But
just vote. Dang it.
It just vote. Your voice matters, and yeah, democracy matters. So please vote. So yeah, if you like this video, we'll get off the political soapbox now. If you like this video, please do give us a like. Please do subscribe. Please leave a comment. We do read all the comments. We try to respond as quickly as possible. But sometimes we don't get back to you as quickly, but we do really enjoy reading all your comments, and we appreciate your time in letting us know that you're watching. So many of you are you just leave the sweetest comments and you make my day. All you Kiwis out there that are watching, yay, we love you. And yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I am at globetrotting_stitcher. You can also send us an email at globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. So keep stitching on all the things you love. Enjoy the changing of the seasons, and we will see you as soon as we possibly can, which is hopefully very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Like, comment, share.
We said that.
Share.
We said that.
Do it again. Say it again. Make it happen.
Make it happen, people.
No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be doing that. You want it? We'll cut now.
Okay.
Cut.